So today's refresh is a sad story with a happy ending. We know that Abraham, he's had a child with Sarah recently, Isaac, the child of the promise, the child in whom God is going to fulfill his covenant, that this is who has been set aside to have more children, who have more children, who have more children, who eventually will bless the entire world. And so at this old age, he finally has this promised son. We also know he has another son with another woman. It's with Sarah's maidservant Hagar that he has the son Ishmael. And a conflict arises in the household, as it would, perhaps. Ishmael is older than Isaac, and brothers. I've got brothers of my own. We often, have conflict with each other. We often will argue or bicker with each other and be in competition with each other. And it's quite the same in Abraham's household. There's a competition going on here. And Sarah, being not very compassionate, gets very selfish and asks Abraham to send away Hagar and her son Ishmael, basically to send them off to their own death. Because if they don't have Abraham as their provider, they really have no hope. And so they're sent out. They're basically kicked away from their own home, the place that Ishmael has known his whole life. And he's being pushed away from the father who he's known his whole life as well. And it says that they come upon desperate times, that as they're out in the desert, they have a hard time finding water. And it says in verse 15, when the water in the skin of their little water thing was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. And she went off and sat down nearby, about a bow shot away. And for she thought, I cannot watch my boy die. She's given up. It seems completely hopeless. And she sat there and she began to sob. In the Septuagint, another version, another translation of the Bible, it says that the boy sobbed. And in the next verse says, God heard the boy crying. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. And so, here we have this moment where it seems like all is lost, and this parent is about to lose her child. She's come at probably the worst moment of her entire life, and it says that she sits down and she cries. And she's got nothing else. She's about to lose this person who she's given birth to and watch grow in her own arms, a child who she would rock to sleep at night and bundle up whenever he was cold. And here he is dying. He's dying in a very terrible and horrible way. And it reminds me of a situation that was happening in Somalia recently, where these families would try to cross the desert and they would starve and they would be without water. And parents, in order to keep as many of their children alive, would actually leave the weakest children behind, the ones that were obviously going to die. They'd leave them there to die alone by themselves as they continued to try to make it through the desert with as many kids as possible. And so we look at our broken world and we see this. And so often we see this and we see these cries for somebody to bring them water, somebody to bring them substance, somebody to help provide for them, to rescue them. We see these things. In a sense, we hear their cries, yet we do nothing. Yet we sit in our own comfortable chairs and we know that we have water at our beck and call at any moment. And we live comfortably and we ignore their cries. But we know that our God does not. He has heard the boy's cry. Do not be afraid, Hagar. This is how God is calling us to be when the world out there is calling for help, for somebody to rescue them, to rescue their children. Our God calls us to hear them, to say, do not be afraid, for the people of God are here.